Hi, everyone. My name is Claire McDonald. I am a member of the class of 2020 in both the genetic counseling program and the Masters of Public Health program. And I know you've heard a little bit about the genetic counseling program on this webinar. I just wanted to go ahead and give you a little bit of the student perspective. So starting with the first year of the genetic counseling program, so as you probably heard from the other part of the webinar, we take the vast majority of our classes during our first year. We have lectures from a variety of different professionals, including genetic counselors that work nearby, geneticists, other physicians, just people who have expertise who can come in and share that knowledge with us. We also get exposed to several patient panels. We meet individuals who are from families with Huntington's disease, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and Down syndrome, so those are really valuable. And we get hands-on experience through our in-class scenario role plays. We get practice with things like making educational materials and writing patient letters. And then at the end of the spring semester, we do patient simulations with actors who are playing patients. And those are a great way to start practicing our genetic counseling skills. And I should note that many of our classes are taken with others, students in other programs within the human genetics department, and sometimes students in other departments as well. So we get a nice diversity of students in our classes. So with the curriculum, we can sort of put our classes into 4 different buckets. Every semester we have a genetic counseling course with our program directors. The first semester we learn the foundational principles of genetic counseling, and then the second semester has more of a psychosocial focus and preparing us to go into our rotations. We also have genetics courses within the human genetics department that give us the very science-heavy background knowledge about genetics. So those include learning molecular mechanisms of genetic disease. We take a class all about chromosomes, and we take a class on complex disease as well. We have public health classes, which give us a broader sense of the impact that we can have on our communities. Dual degree students getting the master's in public health will have more of these, but all genetic counseling students get some public health exposure, which is great. And then we also have research courses, biostatistics and epidemiology, that teach us skills and research methods, and those are particularly useful when we get to the thesis project in the summer and the second year. During our first year, we also get to do some observational rotations. So we spend a day in each of the 3 main core types of genetic counseling: cancer, prenatal, and pediatrics. And we get to know some of our future supervisors and sort of get a sense of how those sites work. We spend a day in the cystic fibrosis clinic and also a day in the muscular dystrophy and neurogenetics clinic during our first year. We have opportunities outside of those classes as well, varieties of lectures and seminars and things like that to just learn more about genetics. And some of these are incorporated into our curriculum. The School of Public Health has us do grand rounds in our first year, so there are different events and lectures related to public health, and we have to go to a certain number of those. Those are often really interesting. There's a weekly genetics seminar as well. And then we have case conference where the second years and genetic counselors in the area will present cases to us. And so that's always really fun to attend when we're mostly taking classes to sort of hear about what's actually happening in clinic. We also have a leadership seminar series. The students get to choose someone in the field to invite to come visit our program and give a talk, and that is always a really fun opportunity. We get to chat with the person before their talk as well, and you can explore some of these on our website. Look at some of the people we've invited in the past and their talks as well. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the dual degree. Anyone in the genetic counseling program can also add on the Masters of Public Health. All genetic counseling students still take most of their classes with each other, regardless of whether or not they're doing the MPH. There will usually be one different class in the fall and spring semester of the first year. And both groups need to complete their thesis for the genetic counseling program. Some differences are, again, some differences with the class schedule. So the dual degree students will have more classes that they need to take for the public health purposes. So they'll have more classes during their second year. And they also might take some classes at a different time than their other classmates. And then for the MPH students also have to do a practicum and write an essay. The practicum is built in really well. Usually you can just use clinical rotations for that, and also sometimes your student work experience if you have a part-time job. And then the essay is often a chapter added on to the thesis, just to stick with a similar topic so that you don't have to do a whole other literature review, although you are more than welcome to choose a different topic for your public health essay if you wanted to go in that direction. So I mentioned work positions a second ago. A unique feature of our program is that many of our genetic counseling students have part-time jobs. And so some examples of those are a genetic counseling assistant at, say, Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh or McGee Women's Hospital with cancer and prenatal. Every year there is someone hired to be the genetic counseling program TA. There's one in every class and they work for the program. And sometimes students do research as well. But the bottom line is, if you want a part-time job, you can usually get one in some related field. And sometimes students do their thesis project related to their work position, but not always. Okay, so moving on to the second year of the program. So we start our rotations in the summer of second year, typically towards the beginning of May. We see patients around 2 days a week in clinic, and then there's other time outside of clinic that you'll need to do assignments and prep the patients that you're going to see. And prepping cases can sometimes be done at home or may need to be done at the site depending on which rotation you're on. All of the rotation sites are accessible by bus, and the bus fare is included in our tuition as students, so you can just tap your ID when you get on the bus, which is very convenient. And some students who have cars do like to go to some satellite clinics, but this is not by no means required. It's just an opportunity for people who have cars if that is something they'd like to do. So the thesis project is another requirement of the genetic counseling program. We first get introduced to it in our very first semester to sort of start thinking about what we'd like to do. But typically students start actually developing their plan in the summer after their first year when they're doing their rotations. And ideally students will have a concrete plan and have met with their thesis committees by the end of the summer, although students tend to run on slightly different schedules depending on their project. And some students choose or are expected to select a topic related to their work position. This varies by the job. So some students will choose to take a job knowing that it's a requirement to be part of their thesis. And if they have a different topic they want to do for their thesis, then maybe that's not the right job for them. But those who do one through their work can sometimes get paid for parts of their thesis, which is a really nice benefit. Although the thesis project requires a lot of reaching out to people to be your committee members and trying to figure out what you want to do, how to address a gap in the existing literature, the program directors are very supportive every step of the way. They will help you narrow down your topic, help you figure out what you're passionate about, and suggest thesis committee members for you. So although you do have to do a lot of that work yourself, the program directors are there to help and support you every step of the way. It's a really great balance. And then we also have to do an oral defense for our thesis project that happens usually in the spring, and that is for the thesis committee. It's a 15 to 20-minute presentation and then some discussion with the thesis committee members about the implications of the project. The final written document that has to get submitted includes a literature review, the manuscript where you share your results and describe everything you did and have your discussion, and then also a brief discussion of relevance to genetic counseling and public health, and then for dual degree students, their essay portion as well. Although submitting for publication is not the ultimate goal of the thesis project, many students do, and we definitely are encouraged by our committee members to do so. So plenty of students submit for conferences or publication as well. If that's something you're interested in, it's certainly something that can be done. So some other aspects of second year, we do still have a few classes. There's genetic counseling class both in the fall and the spring. Over the summer, there is an unofficial professional development class where we meet with the program directors and they help us with things like writing a resume and job interviews and things like that. And then we also have case conference in the fall and spring. As second years, we present once each semester during case conference. And then we also take an ethics class in the spring of both our first and second year. We have what's called the comprehensive exam. And this is a test on material from all of the genetic counseling related coursework that we did in our first year. It's meant to prepare us for the board's exam in the sense that we learn how to study such a large amount of material and we get used to the types of questions and how much time, sort of the formatting and how much time we need to spend on each question. Although the material is more focused on our coursework than the field as a whole, as with the actual board's exam, it's a good chance to start developing study materials for the board's exam, and it's a pass-fail test. And then we also have an oral exam in our second year as well, which is students get presented with a case and then discuss it and with the program directors and maybe one or two genetic counseling supervisors, and just sort of talk through that case and maybe do a little bit of a session. We also usually attend the yearly conference for NSGC, the National Society of Genetic Counselors. So that's in a different city in the US each year. It takes place during the fall semester, and we get a week off from rotations for that and from our genetic counseling classes. And it also includes a reunion with Pitt alumni, which is a great way to start networking when looking for jobs. And it's also just a fun time to spend time with classmates and get to see what people in the field are doing. It's a fun time. And then graduation takes place at the end of April. There is the option to extend graduation to the end of June if needed. This is something that a lot of the dual degree students do because they have more classes and maybe not as much time to work on their thesis. They can take those extra couple months to sort of wrap up their thesis and essay. But it is still possible for dual degree students to graduate at the end of April. And some students who do certificate programs also want a little bit of extra time. And then finally, we do lots of fun things outside of class. It's always important to have some social time when in graduate school because it's an intense experience. So we'll do things like going to get coffee or tea in between classes. There's always lots of fun things going on in Pittsburgh, festivals and events. There are great museums here. A lot of them we can get in for free with our student ID. Some of my classmates have really enjoyed going to musicals and plays and the Nutcracker Ballet at Christmas, and for a lot of those events there are student discounts available. So there's lots of different ways as a student that you can do fun things on a budget. And then of course Pittsburgh has a lot of cool neighborhoods and a lot of different kinds of restaurants. So For foodies, it's a really great time to check out the different restaurants. I think most people in the program have really enjoyed living in Pittsburgh for 2 years. I know I have really loved it here. I think it's a hidden gem of a city. And then finally, I just put the link to our website here. There's lots of great information, so you can take some time to look around there. We're also quite active on social media, so follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We like to post articles related to things going on in genetics, and we have a student blog as well that comes out every 2 weeks. You can find the link on our website, so lots of different resources for you to see what it's like being a student in our program. That is about it. Thank you so much for listening, and good luck with your whole process of applying to genetic counseling programs. And I hope that you will consider Pitt.